Hello.
Guess who's back?
Never a dull moment. Thank you for your patience.
No, absolutely. And thank you for coming back on twice in what, 2 or 3 weeks now? I can't do the math. These days are so blurry
I know,
anymore.
right? Time flies. We've had a whole holiday.
I know. Wow. It's super dark out. We're recording this at 6 o'clock. I hate it. I absolutely hate that it feels like 11 o'clock at night, but it is what it is. It's a great time of year. It's a wonderful time of year. Do you have a good Thanksgiving?
I did. It was quiet. We just pretty it was pretty quiet with everyone who's local. And then we're gonna have a really big Christmas this year. So I'm like, I could do a quieter Thanksgiving knowing that Christmas is gonna be wild.
That's awesome. So
Yeah. How about
excited.
you?
Yeah, no, it was really good Thanksgiving. Kristen's family is 20 minutes away, so right down the street. And boy, they
Yeah.
love to cook, and they love to cook good food.
Ooh.
And that is something we are definitely gonna get into quite a bit
Yeah.
on this episode. Is the holidays, the foods. Shannon, this is the third time you've been on my podcast. Super thankful
Such an
for all
honor.
of them. Just for anybody who's listening to you, you're on episode 65 and 96. 96 episode 96 what we just did was quite a bit of a different track, I will say, but
Yeah.
you being super personal, and I one of my favorite conversations I've ever had.
Oh,
episode
thank you.
6 episode 65 is more kind of guess up your alley for being a fitness coach and
Yes.
working with people and their eating habits, we should say, and their mindset. And we're going to build off of that, but we're really going to pinpoint towards the holiday season. But Shannon, I want you to introduce yourself one more time and what you do.
Oh, well, I'm so happy to be back. I love being on this podcast. It's so
Thank
much
you.
fun. And so, yeah, I'm Shannon. I'm a health and fitness coach. I'm a personal trainer, and I specialize in helping women lose weight and keep it off so you can feel confident in your clothes. Growing up, I was an athlete, so fitness always came naturally to me. I was playing soccer, I was running track, but nutrition is really where I struggled. I was always confused around what I should be eating and constantly falling off track diets. And then 7 years ago, I tore my ACL for the first time. And I was so terrified that I was going to gain weight because I couldn't work out. And this is really when I found strength training and fell in love with being strong rather than just being skinny. And it was after I hired a coach to help me really with my relationship with food that I learned the value of proper nutrition and how to fuel your body in a way that felt balanced and free. And so now I help women create the sustainable lifestyle transformation by learning how to eat and exercise for their body and their goals so we can cut through all of this confusion and overwhelm and just feel strong and confident in our skin.
Hmm. It's so great. A lot of it does come down to mindset. And for any guy
Yeah,
who's listening, I know you mentioned women, but I just want to make it clear your advice helps
it's
all
transferable for
genders.
sure. For
All
sure.
genders. That's one of the reasons I keep having you back on. It helps me for sure. And you, as we mentioned before, you've worked with Kristen, my wife, and just talking to her about the things you guys were talking about, it was like, oh, well, that, obviously I can use that. That's great
Yeah.
information. That's stuff I
Yeah.
didn't know. So yes, you work with women, but the information you have, it knows no boundaries. It helps me, and it helps men, it helps women, helps all ages. That's why I'm super excited to have you back on. And I'll admit, you were vulnerable last podcast. This is a podcast I might get a little more vulnerable because
Okay.
this is something. Yes, I'm in shape. Yes, I'm not overweight. I take care of myself, but that doesn't mean I don't have my issues sometimes around the house, especially around the holidays too,
Hmm.
with snacking, with portion size. I have a sweet tooth, and here's one of my biggest issues was when the holiday comes around. I'm decently restrictive. I think that's a podcast in itself. Is why am I restrictive and all that stuff, right? I think you know all about that. You specialize in that,
I'm like,
but
yeah, we're gonna dig into that tonight.
yeah, you can ask me questions if you want to flip the tables on me. Go for it. But for people who are decently restrictive, eat pretty healthy, and I'm pretty proud of that. Honestly, I'm pretty proud of how healthy I eat. But there are times that come around, like holidays and special occasions, and it's like, ooh, Thanksgiving's here. I am gonna go nuts. And I legit will sometimes go nuts. And it's like
Yeah.
I'm gonna treat myself, and then I overly treat myself. And I just I'm sure I'm not the only one. I'm sure you've heard this before.
Yeah.
Um, but there are also probably people who aren't necessarily as healthy as I am, but still make terrible decisions around the holidays because it's just I know we talked about before, like we were going to call this navigating the holidays. That's literally what I'm going to call this podcast, is navigating, because it is. How do you navigate this? We have two massive holidays at the very least, right? With Thanksgiving and Christmas for most people. I know we all celebrate different things, but that also means there's many parties, many get-togethers, many sweets, many cookies, alcohol everywhere. It is very difficult. Yeah. It is difficult to just say no, or to pass, or to hold portions, let alone peer pressure as well from friends and family. Like, why aren't you eating this? And hey, I made this for you. There's nothing wrong with having another one. And there's pressure from internal and external. It's a really difficult time. It really is. I don't want to understate it. It really is. I have my struggles too. And the funny thing is tomorrow we're going out to dinner. It's our annual event. It's a place called the Angus Barn here in Raleigh. If anybody's listening to this, you can look it up. Beautiful place. It is awesome. It's like the best restaurant in the area. I'm super excited. The food is top notch. But yeah, we do this once a year. And
just you and Kristen, or like a group of friends?
Or a group of friends. There's going to be probably 18 to 20 of us tomorrow, which is,
oh my gosh, so fun.
Great. It's great because a lot of them, live in the area and stuff, but they're also busy with kids and life and all that stuff. And it's a guarantee we catch up at least that once a year, if not more.
Yeah. But I love that.
But the food is excellent. And yeah, it's one of those nights I'm talking about where it's like, I know I'm doing this. I'm going to splurge. I'm going to enjoy myself, which maybe is okay. But at some point you got to put a cap on that, I imagine. So I'm just going to shut up here for a moment and I'm going to leave it as, let's just start the conversation with, how the hell do we navigate the holidays?
Yeah. Well, I think we can start by acknowledging that it is a really challenging time of year, because let's face it, we have food galore. The abundance of food this time of year is overwhelming in and of itself. You're also probably meeting work deadlines. You're probably traveling. You are exposed to foods you aren't normally exposed to. You're seeing people you haven't seen in maybe months or years, like your friends. You're catching up with them this one time of year, if that's it, right? You are maybe traveling and you're not in your normal sleep schedule. You're not in your normal environment. You have zero sense of routine. There's so many factors that are constantly at play that also contribute to our relationship with food and how we feel this time of year, that we can just acknowledge that it is hard. Take the food aside, there's so many different things that are contributing to it feeling challenging and hard to navigate.
Not to mention it's also dark. It's getting cold.
It's dark. Yep.
Who wants to go to the gym
when it's pitch black at 4:00 at night? Not me. Yeah. No, I'm not doing it. I'll admit I'm a trainer. If I don't go in the morning, it's not happening when it's 4 p.m. and it's dark out.
Yep.
It's not happening.
A lot of variables. Yeah. A lot of X factors. It's all like so many factors into one that make it so difficult.
Exactly. And so what I really want to bring light to on this podcast specifically is the fact that the goal is not to survive it. That the holidays get to be easy and stress-free, but we have to start looking at this differently. So for example, you said you're decently restrictive, right? Well, one, let's just call a spade, that there's no way that you're supposed to eat this time of the year. There's no right way to eat on a holiday. There's no right way to eat when you go out to dinner with your friends, or you meet up with your girls for brunch, or you catch up with the people your family that you haven't seen all year long. There's no way that you're supposed to handle it. There's no pass or fail or grade that you're going to suddenly get. You checked off the box that you did well in this event, or you screwed up and that's actually not what you were supposed to do. Because my goal is that you get to navigate this time of year with confidence and make choices that feel best for you. And I can't sit here and say feeling best for you is A, B, or C. Only you can make that decision for yourself, right? If you want to have the cookies, have the cookies, but I want you to be able to eat the cookies and not feel guilty versus, and this is the conversation I want to get into tonight, telling yourself you can't have the cookies, restricting them for so long, and then overindulging because you haven't allowed yourself to eat cookies for the other 360 days of the year.
Or something else I don't mind if you dive into, you're full, you've had a piece of pie, but the pie is so delicious and it's served once a year that you have another piece of pie.
So good. Yeah. Right? Yeah. And so, there's this idea of balance in nutrition, right? Everyone wants to feel balanced. They want to have balance. They want to balance the stuff that they love with the stuff that nourishes them. But there's no black or white line with balance. And what we see a lot of times is that how we approach nutrition is very black or white. It's all or nothing. I'm either eating clean and I'm cooking all of my meals from scratch and I'm following my meal plan to a T. So good. And I am on. I am on point this week. And then the moment that you eat something that deviates from what's allowed or what's good or what your meal plan says is approved or what your diet says is okay, this all or nothing way of thinking around food will say one small slip is complete and utter failure. And then because we think it's failure, we're like, well, I've already screwed up enough, so I'm just going to go off the deep end and eat everything that I've been restricting. And I will just get back on track tomorrow. Right. I mean, like,
Mhm.
I could raise my hand and say, like, I fell into that for years. And so that very scenario is why the holidays are so challenging. It's so multi-layered because one, of course you're going to want to go to the party and have the pie. Of course you're going to want to go to the party and have the cookies. I'm not going to sit here and say don't. But the issue is that as soon as you have the cookies because you want to enjoy yourself, then you're going to feel guilty. Then you're going to go off the deep end because you're struggling with this all or nothing way of thinking, right? And then on top of it, you're probably sleep deprived, right? You're stressed. You want to enjoy yourself. And so what we need to understand is that in order to thrive, I don't want you just to survive this time of year, thrive. We have to get out of this black or white way of thinking and learn how to navigate the messy middle that you get to fuel your body really well and also enjoy the stuff that you love. But balance might look like saying, hey, two pieces of pie is enough. Three is like, you know what? I probably would have been good at two. Like now I just feel stuffed and sick and it wasn't as enjoyable as I thought it was going to be.
And I don't want to just get stuck on like one event, the kind of like we're hitting like one night.
Right.
It's also
Right.
the fact that there's like
They're
Wednesday you're out with your
compounding.
friends, and then Friday's a work event, and then Saturday's the
Yep.
family event. It's just like it's so hard to. You're not going to say no. You want to see all these people,
Right.
but the food options is like it is what it is. Like, oh,
Right.
so we'll talk about that too.
Yeah. Yeah. And this is where it's really important. And again, my approach to this, I find is very different than what we're hearing a lot in the market of, like drink water and eat before you go. And yeah, like all those things mattered, right? Like slow down while you're eating and practice food boundaries. And absolutely, those are all really key and important. But the thing that's being overlooked is if we are not maintaining some sense of routine this time of year, making sure we're getting enough sleep, making sure we're moving our body on a regular basis, making sure that we are managing our stress because stress is through the roof, right? If we're not staying grounded in some capacity, then when you are in these social settings, you're not going to have the wherewithal within yourself to be able to make choices that work best for you because you're sleep deprived. So your hunger is through the roof, your stress is through the roof. So the last thing you want is a healthy meal, right? We have to have that foundation so that when we are in the food environments, we can say, okay, you know what? Maybe tonight, the best thing that I can do for myself is like have a drink with my friends. And also on the alternative, maybe tonight, you know what? I know that I have like six parties this week. And like, quite frankly, what would help me feel best is just having a really nourishing meal, getting some protein and veggies on my plate, and just being present with my friends versus treating this as such a special opportunity because really it's not about the food and being able to discern between the two.
What are you supposed to do for parties that don't have veggies? Like
They don't
it's
have
just
what?
veggies. Like it's you show up and it's like finger foods that are fried and
Yeah.
cookies and what do you do? What do you ask yourself?
Yeah.
And the questions I'm asking you, I don't know. These are legit questions. I do not know the answer to.
I
I'm
was like, this was
serious.
not.
I'm serious. I don't know. Sometimes I don't know what to do. And sometimes like it's like, man, I'm hungry. I didn't really eat much before this. And it's 9 o'clock. It's like I really need to eat something. And then you got all these spreads on the table. You're like, oh, I'll have a few of these. And then before you know it.
Yeah, so I think one thing that I see with nutrition is that it can feel so overwhelming, so confusing, so defeating, and like we have no sense of control. We have no self control around certain foods. We don't feel like we can even have certain foods in the house because if it's in the house, I can't even prevent myself from eating it. Like I won't even let myself buy it because if it's in the house, I won't be able to control myself around it. And that feeling of needing to control food is another way that restriction is kind of permeated into our relationship with food. And so it's in situations like that where my hope would be to equip you with the tools and the confidence to be able to navigate with that with confidence so that you can make the most of the situation and also have self-compassion if it's not perfect.
Hmm.
Because there's by all means situations where you show up and you're like, okay, cool. Like I have this party on the calendar tonight. I'm going to go. You show up and it's all fried foods. And you're like, well, but I haven't eaten all day and I'm not going to cook when I get home. So I just have to make do with what I have. And it's not going to be perfect. And that's okay. All or nothing way of thinking will say, if you eat that fried food, you were bad, you fell off track, all the damage is beyond repair, all of your hard work is ruined, we completely catastrophize. But then maybe you go and you're like, all right, you know what? If this is what I'm going to eat tonight, I'm maybe going to have a couple spring rolls. Why is spring rolls coming to mind? I have no idea. Fried food. Maybe I'll have some French fries, and then maybe I'll have a snack when I get home. Right? You know you're going to go into a situation that's going to be a bunch of fried foods. Maybe you want to have something before you go. But can we just start to take a proactive approach in our nutrition and have compassion when it doesn't go as planned and we have to make do with what we have,
Hmm.
but be cautious of that all or nothing way of thinking creeping in behind the scenes and saying, if I eat this, then I'm a failure, but I don't want to be bad, but I also don't want to restrict. But if I eat this, I'm going to undo all my progress. It's like sometimes at the end of the day, you've been working all day, you didn't have time to eat, you get to the party, you're starving. Maybe you ate more because than you wanted because you were hungry and you didn't mean to. And it's just kind of the nature of the situation. Consistency is just about consistently showing up and making choices. And it's not about being 100% perfect and then failing. It's like, well, what can I do with what I have? And then also put myself in a position to feel good and nourish my body in the way that it needs to fuel and operate best.
Hmm. See, I love the conversations with you because it comes down to mindset,
Yeah.
which is behind everything. It really
Behind
is behind
everything.
everything you do. And would you say good or bad to like, I don't know, I guess have a pep talk with yourself or set expectations with yourself before going to dinners or parties or something like that? Is that a good thing or is it a bad thing?
I don't know if it's necessarily a good versus bad as much as a do you need it or not? I mean, I'm taking a really deep breath now, like right now, because I'm just putting myself in that situation of the person who has maybe just started their fitness journey and they've started like compounding some really positive, healthy choices. And now maybe the holidays, especially this time of year, is like the first time they're going to be in that environment where it's just they're going to be exposed to things. It's like when you're home and you have your kitchen, you can put yourself in an environment of success. You can stock your cabinets with things that are healthy. Maybe you're not going out to eat as much and there is a period of time where you almost need to like protect the barriers while you build some confidence around yourself that you can trust yourself and you can make positive choices. But it's not sustainable to live in that confinement of cooking
Mhm.
everything from scratch and never going out to eat. That's not sustainable. That's not real life. And so if there is a situation where now you're going into the holidays and you're going to be exposed to different choices, and maybe you're in the spot right now where you're just like, the fitness journey can be so scary of like, I want to do good, but I just, every time in the past, I've eaten more than I meant to, and I chose things that I didn't want, but I want this time to go different. If you need to give yourself a little bit of a pep talk, that's okay. But also, what I would encourage you to do is go in with a game plan. So often the one of the reasons why the holidays bring up such anxiety around food is because there's so many unknowns. You don't know what's going to be served at the holiday party. You don't know what ingredients your aunt used when they were making their meal. You don't know, you're not weighing and tracking your food if you're used to tracking macros and then suddenly you're going to portion things out on your plate and you don't know if you're eating the appropriate. The unknowns are endless. So it makes sense that there's a lot of fear, but one of the tools that I love to use with clients is called if then planning. Okay, so before you even go to the event, figure out what does balance look like for me in that situation. If it's like, you know what, hey, we're going to the holiday party and my family's gonna bring like my grandmother's famous apple pie. Like I know I want to have some of that apple pie. Cool. Apple pie is on the plate. We're having it. Done deal. Now we get to figure out, okay, well, what does balance look like with having the apple pie? Is it one slice? Is it two? Do you want to have some pumpkin too? Like, what about that chocolate pie over there? Like, does that look good? Give yourself permission. Let me backtrack and just say this one thing. Everything we do around sustainable nutrition has to be on a permission-based way of eating. You're allowed to say yes. You are allowed. It gets to be an option on the table. So if you want to say yes to having the apple pie, cool. It's an option on the plate. Okay, we're having it. You're definitely having it. But figure out, what does balance look like for you in this specific environment, in this specific holiday party? Whether it's the pie, whether it's the number of drinks, what does that look like? Let's say you're going to go and you're like, okay, I'm going to have one apple pie, slice of apple pie, and I'm going to have a cocktail because that feels good for me tonight. Cool. I didn't determine that for you. You determine that for yourself. Okay. Well, then the plan becomes, again, if then planning. If I am tempted to have more, then I will what? Maybe it's like, okay, I know that I want to have 2 drinks tonight. And if I'm tempted to have a third, if I am tempted to have a third drink, then I will bring my glass of whatever to the kitchen and grab a sparkling water instead.
Hmm.
Then you get to go in with, like, you know what? I know what I want to walk out of this with. I know what feels good for me to fully enjoy the experience without tipping over into, now I'm stuffed and sick. And I know what to do if the temptation comes up to maybe go past that line of balance. All you need to do is figure out, how do you want to feel after the event? What decisions align with that feeling? And then what are the potential barriers preventing you from being able to act out on this game plan that you've put forward for yourself?
Yeah, I agree with that. I know I tend to do better sometimes with I'll say the issues that I have, with overeating and portion control and all that stuff. Is kind of like setting an expectation with myself beforehand if possible. Just kind of like, hey,
Yeah.
I know there's going to be pizzas, pies, and cookies in this party. It's
Yeah.
one of those things where it's like, oh, if I
Sounds
have a
great.
couple pieces, that's fine. If I have a
Yep.
drink, that's fine. Have an expectation of, like, you're right, like what adds up for me to feel like, okay, I still enjoyed myself, but I didn't overdo it.
Right.
Sometimes I have a hard time holding back
Yeah.
because, like I said, when I went to Thanksgiving,
Yeah.
I knew I was having that pumpkin pie. I knew it. I love it.
By
I
all
did.
means.
I
Yeah.
did not expect the pumpkin cheesecake to be on the table.
Who brought this?
Holy God. It was made, Kristen's dad made it from scratch, and it was
Yeah.
like, it was heaven.
Oh, unreal.
And
Yeah.
so, I mean, I overdid it. I 100% overdid it. I'm not looking back like, oh my God, what did I do? But I'm just like, I'm fully admitting I
Yeah.
overdid it. I definitely
Yeah.
was enjoying myself probably a little too much that night. But yeah, I'm sure you have these conversations with people all the time. There's probably people listening that was like, yep, I've been
Yeah.
there too. It's
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
it's freaking hard. It really is hard.
And so can we use those opportunities? Because I think, I mean, we have this idea that, like, free for all eating, like, I'm just gonna eat whatever I want, feels so good. But, like, at the end of the day, when you're, like, bloated and your stomach is overly full, it doesn't
You don't
feel
sleep
as
well.
good. Yeah, you don't sleep well, like, your skin starts breaking out. It doesn't feel good as we make it out to seem in our head, which is why thinking it through ahead of time can be a proactive approach. And then if you do overdo it, okay, well, what do we want to change for next time? What I don't want to have happen is, let's take the holiday season from Halloween through the new year, right? We had Halloween, maybe you overdid it on the candy. Maybe you had Thanksgiving, you overdid it on the pie. Don't let this be the thing that suddenly steamrolls and you completely check out and you're just going to keep overdoing it until you wake up on New Year's. That's why people gain 5 to 10 pounds over the holiday season, because they check out. They're like, it's too hard. I can't do this. One, are we maintaining our sense of routine so we can recalibrate? And then two, are we treating each opportunity, each holiday party, as an individual entity? And what I want you to avoid doing is falling into what I call the social setting trap. And that is allowing the environment you're in or the people you are with determine how you eat. Your diet is your diet, regardless if you are at the restaurant, you are at the holiday party, you are with your family, you're out to dinner with friends. How I feel my body is how I feel my body. What I'm not going to do is allow the environment to dictate what I have. So because I'm at the Mexican restaurant, I'm going to order the fajitas and a margarita, right? Because I'm at the Thanksgiving thing, I'm going to have, pie and the cheesecake and the cookies and the turkey and the ham and all of it, right? Because I'm
Are
out
you
to dinner
making
with
fun of me?
no, 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 no. Like, these are
I'm
great
just messing
examples.
with
They're
you.
just coming to mind,
I'm just
right?
messing with you.
Because I'm at the pizzeria, I'm gonna order, I'm gonna grab a slice and a beer, right? not to say that you can't have that, but I want you to make the choice based on how you want to feel because you are in control of your nutritional decisions versus, well, because everybody else is drinking, because everyone else is having pizza, I'm going to have it too. I'm not saying that you can't also partake, but it has to be a conscious choice versus I'm going to go and I'm going to let the environment control my choices and I'm going to blackout eat and I don't care what I have. And then you wake up the following day and you are the only one living with the choices that you make and you regretted it because you didn't think it through ahead of time.
That's the tough situation. I feel like is socially those environments, especially with
Yeah.
friends and some family members that'll like force
Yeah.
feed you, like, "Hey, I made this for you. You should eat this," and you don't really want to,
I
or you're
slaved
full.
over the stove all day. Oh yeah,
Mhm.
that guilt is strong.
What? So how do you get through those situations when you are feeling the pressure from your friends who are all having drinks and
Yeah.
like hey, as a guy, we get our balls busted if it's like I'll have a water and everyone's like, "What are you doing? Come on, man, have shots, have this, have that."
Oh,
But
you're no fun. You used to be so fun before. Yeah.
right. And so it's hard, especially like when they're like, yo, if I wanted to get a salad and everyone else is having pizza, burger, and wings,
Yeah.
I'm getting blasted for that. So what do you do internally and externally? Like what do you say? What are perhaps some things? I don't know if you have anything,
Yeah.
any like kind of standard you can reply
Yeah.
with, or what do you think?
So again, this goes back to owning your nutritional decisions. What you choose to eat or not eat and what you choose to drink or not drink does not impact anybody else's experience. Not gonna sit here and say it's not a grand old time to have some drinks with your friends and make some crazy memories and like do your thing, right? Like I'm not gonna sit here and say like I don't do that too from time to time. But I also know that what I choose to have at the end of the day only affects me. Yeah, they might bust your balls a little bit for a short period of time, but it's so short versus you partaking, let's say, if you don't want to, and then for the next morning, you wake up feeling guilty, lethargic, gross in your body, bloated, run down, maybe trying to burn it off in the gym because I know that's a really common habit. And then 2 days trying to make up for it because you just let the peer pressure get the best of you versus just sitting in that uncomfortable, sensation for a very short period of time and being like, no, actually, I'm not drinking tonight, but thank you. And what we need
So
to do, go ahead, go ahead.
I was gonna say something that I tell myself, whether I'm right or wrong, I don't
Yeah.
know, is like I said, I do really make a lot of healthy decisions, is that they're probably at the end of the day or the next day kind of jealous a little bit that I have more control at times, that I look good,
Yeah.
that I feel good, I'm in shape,
Yeah.
and they're not.
And I
So
mean, people who are into health and fitness, a lot of times, and this is just like a really open and honest conversation, people might not even realize that they're doing it. They might want what you have. They might want to feel that way and be self-conscious that they don't have the same level of self-control or they don't have the same discipline or willpower or all of these things that they think are skills and characteristics that you carry that they somehow can't. And so when they see you owning that choice, it's almost a mirror for them of like, I lack that. They're better than me in some way, and it makes them feel insecure. So of course they're gonna be like, "Oh no, come on, eat the
yeah.
thing, come on. You're no fun anymore." And they're gonna make fun because they want you to come not down to their level, but it's almost like, well, come justify that it's okay that I'm eating like garbage because I'll feel better if you do it with me.
Mm.
Because something about food and weight and bodies makes us feel so insecure. And it's really sad in my eyes that healthy eating has been deemed the outlier and you are more a part of the group if you're partaking in putting things into your body that are really deeply unhealthy for you or toxic potentially. But like I just always go back to your body is your body. And you at some point need to say, I am not willing to forego feeling comfortable in my body for the sake of somebody else's experience.
Mm.
And maybe this is like me just being a little bit hard because I had to make that choice very young because I struggled with stomach issues. So I got very comfortable ordering the salad a while ago. Not to say I didn't also have friends being like, come drink or like have a burger. I'm like, yeah, I'll have a burger, but I'm not gonna I'm not gonna order the French fries and the wings because I will be deeply sick if I do. And so
Yeah.
it's a little bit easier for me. But I think if you can start to equip yourself with little phrases that in those moments you can rely on, it helps take the sting away. So for example, if someone's like, but oh, I slaved over the stove all day. I made your favorite. It's like, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. Hey, I'm stuffed right now, but maybe I'll try a little bit later.
Mhm.
It looks so good. Can I bring some home? Hey, you know what? I would love to have a drink right now with you, but you know what? I have a big thing tomorrow and I'm just gonna stick with water tonight. But like, let's catch up. Like, how has work been? And to start to change the topic of the conversation because that curve of it feeling uncomfortable is so short-lived. And so if you can just have a couple, excuse me, a couple things in your back pocket that you can just pull out that kind of ease that tension, it's not about the food. I mean, I want you to enjoy it, but you know what? I'm so full right now. Maybe later.
Mm.
Thank you so much. I would love to bring some home. One piece is plenty. Thank you so much. I'm so good. Oh, it was delicious.
This
I can't eat
is
anymore.
this is super helpful because this eliminates these phrases that you're giving me right now for people to say. It eliminates putting someone on the spot where they have to kind of sit there and churn and think about
Yeah.
this, and then they don't say the right thing or they think they're afraid they're going to sound stupid. So it is really this is why I asked you about sometimes like having a game plan or having like a pep talk beforehand. That's not necessarily such a bad thing to go into these environments with somewhat of a game plan of what you're going to eat. And if you're put in this pressurized situation, you have a response to it already geared up and
Yeah.
ready to go. So you're not thinking about it. Oh my God, what do I say? Do I look stupid? You already have something to say, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it is very, very helpful.
And we see this a lot of times too with I work with women, so I hear the conversations a lot around topic of weight. Like, looks like tough year, or like, oh,
For
looks like
real,
you've
hold on. They
lost
say
weight.
that they say
Oh
tough
yeah.
year.
I mean, maybe I'm just kind of pulling that one rabbit out of the hat, but like absolutely comments on women's bodies and their weights and if they're single or if they're married or job promotions or, demotions or whatever. Oh, absolutely.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oof.
Yeah.
Oof.
I mean, it's one of the it's like a almost a main topic talking point. And I don't know if it's also I get more of it because I'm a trainer and I just feel like I almost don't tell people I'm a trainer in social settings because they're like, "Yeah, I've been so bad with my diet lately," and like, "Oh, I really need to get." I'm like, "I'm not judging you. You do your thing. Like, you're
Mhm.
you're you're fine. You're fine." But I do hear from clients a lot that the topic of weight or comments on their bodies, especially if they've had a hard year and maybe they've gained some weight, is very much something that they struggle with.
Just give them your business card. It's like here,
But
call me
it's also
later.
where we can start to pack boundaries, right? Like, you know what? My body's really not up for discussion, but how's work? I would love to hear what things are going for you. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's been a really tough year, and just acknowledging it and then shifting it is important.
I love this because it's not just the mindset that we're working on. You're also giving people tools and techniques of how just sometimes they just want to get through the freaking night. The
Yeah.
mindset will help their year, but these tools will help you get through a tough evening or two.
Yeah.
And I feel like some people would just want like, hey, just give me something to get through tonight.
Yeah. I want to make it tangible. It doesn't have to be, how do I navigate this? It's so hard. It's so stressful.
Mm.
Holidays aren't necessarily, they don't have to be stressful. Not to say that they aren't a stressful time of year because family dynamics and travel and logistics, right? Like it is, but the food part of it and you feeling good doesn't have to be a struggle.
And I think you mentioned it maybe like 5 minutes ago or so. And I know we talked about this in our first conversation was I definitely still do have the mindset sometimes, and you can blast me on this if you want.
I'm like, let's go.
Is let's say I'm going out to dinner on a
Yeah.
Saturday night and I know I'm gonna have an awesome dinner and I'm gonna
I
have
know where this is
dessert,
going. Go ahead. Yeah.
but I have all day to work out. What is your thoughts on like for the people that just say, I'm gonna hit the weights extra hard or I'm gonna go to the gym for another hour so I can enjoy this and feel guilt free? What do you say
Yeah,
to
or
those
I'm
people?
not going to eat to save up calories.
Yep.
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 So I want to say that idea stems from this concept that weight loss, weight gain, weight maintenance is this calories in, calories out approach. So if I burn more, then I can eat more. If I overeat, then I need to burn it off. Yes, calories play a role. Energy balance is absolutely a thing. If you are eating more than you are expending, you will gain weight. If you are eating less than you are expending, then you will technically lose weight. right? Because that's how we create energy deficits in order to elicit change in the body. But what isn't considered is the metabolism and appetite and hormones and how all of that contributes to not only the body composition changes that you're able to make, but your overall consistency. And I always like to explain everything from the concept of a rubber band. Your metabolism is basically a rubber band, and any type of restriction or any type of stress places tension on the rubber band. And what happens is when we're restricting food for a long period of time, or let's say we go all day without eating, that rubber band is stretched all the way to the max. And then what happens is when you get to the party, your body still needs the same amount of calories throughout the day, whether you ate them breakfast, lunch, and dinner, or you didn't eat all day and you ate at dinner. But the issue is that, or ate at the party, I should say. But the issue is that now that rubber band is stretched so far, you're exhausted, you are hungry, you are depleted, you are in such a deep energy deficit because you probably worked out all day and you worked out extra hard and you did cardio that increases your appetite. Now, when you get to the party, that rubber band gets let go. And not only do you overeat, but you go so far overboard because you have no sense of control because you can't out willpower your hormones. Because your appetite is you're not only starving for the amount of food that you need to be eating that day, it is through the roof because you've been under such stress. Versus, let me eat a normal breakfast, let me eat a normal lunch, and let me go to the party and treat it as a separate entity, this specific meal. If you know you're going to go to the party and you're going to have pizza and some beers, maybe you keep your lunch a little bit lighter on the carbs, but it doesn't have to be, I need to earn it, I deserve it, or I need to burn it off. Because here, and this is the challenge that we fall into, go back to that rubber band. I was just talking to a client about this yesterday. Let's say you have a day where you eat 2,800 calories, okay? And you might think that's a lot of food. Then maybe you feel guilty that you overate that day. And so what's the natural tendency? You restrict the following day. So let's say on Monday you had 2,800 calories, you felt guilty, you felt like you overate. So then on Tuesday you restrict and you have like 1,200 calories. Well, now because you've only had 1,200 calories, you're starving. So then what happens on Wednesday is you go back up to like 2,800 or 3,000. And then you do it again the following day. And it's this ping pong of overeating, undereating, overeating, undereating. And that's one, so stressful on the body, but it's also so stressful on you because now you're constantly thinking around food. You're constantly overwhelmed that you're falling off track. You're starving throughout the day. You don't have energy versus I love keeping things simple. Can we just eat this, the amount that's appropriate for our body on a regular, consistent basis to stabilize our appetite, to stabilize our hunger, to stabilize our craving so that when we are in the social setting, we can make a choice that feels best for us, not because our hunger is through the roof and we can't help ourselves around it, or our cravings are through the roof and we feel that pull to food, but because it's a conscious choice. And this is where I get really, really like riled up. And I have a hard time when people say intuitive eating because now I'm just going off on a tangent. So feel free to stop me at any point in time. If you have come from this place of constantly following diets and constantly following meal plans, you have never been taught how to eat. You have never been taught here's actually how you feel your body. So you only know how to eat based on the time of the clock, what your meal plan says is appropriate, what your meal plan says is approved, what your diet says you should be eating, the time of day that you should be eating. You've never stopped and asked yourself, am I actually hungry? What does hunger feel like in my body? Do I want this food just because it's in front of me or because I genuinely want it? And so you can't go from following these meal plans and following these diets and then suddenly like, I'm going to eat when I'm hungry and I'm going to stop when I'm full because your body doesn't know what that looks like. You've never been taught. And this is why when I like to blend both mindful eating with tracking macros with my clients because mindful eating will teach you how to fuel your body, but we have to now I'm going off on a tangent, but we have to get your appetite stabilized first. And we do that through a couple things. We're going to balance out our meals. Can we get a protein, a veggie, a carb, and a fat at most eating opportunities? And then 2, can we eat at consistent, frequent intervals? 3, 4 meals a day. I don't care if it's 3 meals and a snack. I don't care if it's 4 smaller meals. It doesn't matter. No eating more frequently does not speed up your metabolism. Let's just cut that right then and there. But we have to break up this pattern of just having the meal plan tell us what to eat. Because the issue of why you struggle, now we'll bring it full circle, why you struggle during the holidays is because suddenly all the things that the meal plan said wasn't allowed are now in front of you, but because you've never been taught how to eat, you don't know how to navigate that situation.
Mm.
Versus, let's teach you how to feel your body 365 days a year where nothing is off limits. So when you're in the environment, you know you can have cookies on a random Tuesday in February or a random Wednesday in August. You don't have to wait just until that Christmas party where you've been restricting cookies for the other 364 days a year and you're like, cookie, I am going in. That's why you struggle, because your diet is all restricted the other 364 days a year. How you eat on the holidays has less to do with the holiday itself and everything to do with how you eat the rest of the year.
Why do I feel like you're talking? You're looking right at me in the
Can you tell
eyes.
I get fired up about this? I'm like, this is why you're struggling. This
Mm.
is why women are struggling. This is why you're struggling in the industry, because nobody is talking about this. And it makes me mad for you because you sit here, the person listening to this, you sit here and you're like, I have no self control. I have no self discipline. I have no willpower. I'm like, no, you've just never been taught how to eat. And you've been told that carbs are bad and fat is bad and intermittent fasting is best and keto is this. And get a protein, veggie, carb, and fat on your plate and you will be solid. Oh my gosh, I love talking about this stuff.
For those of you who are only listening, I just did a mic drop because that's well deserved. I dropped my mic if it wasn't on a stand, but gotta
Just
keep the
ignore me
show
going
going.
off on 4-minute tangent.
I mean, this is why you do what you do. This is why you're a coach, and this is why I had you on the show. Speak the
Oh, thank
truth.
you.
Speak the
Yeah,
truth. And something else I wanted to hit on, you said a few times,
yeah.
is you said treat each meal like a separate entity. Whereas I'm gonna be honest with you, you're gonna blast me for this too. A lot of times I don't do
I
that.
say it with love. Yeah, go ahead. Okay.
A lot of
A
times
lot
I
of
don't
times
do
you don't.
that. And I feel that you've kind of taught Kristen this.
Yeah,
And I think we've had, I want to say arguments is way too strong of a word, but we've had a little kind of like spats, if you will, on me making the comment, I'm eating really clean this week. So
yeah,
we're going out Friday. I'm going to have a really good time Friday.
yeah.
And I know a lot of people probably feel that way and talk that way and say the same thing. So, but that doesn't make a lot of sense if you're treating each meal as a separate entity, right? Because that's like a combined week all into one. So dive into that if you could.
So that has less to do with it being a separate entity and more that eating clean is a form of restriction too. If your diet is so clean that you never allow yourself, let's go back to the cookie scenario. You've
Mhm.
been restricting cookies from your diet for 364 days a year, and now you're at the holiday party and you're like, I am going in. I'm gonna eat all the cookies because suddenly, come December 26th, cookies are no longer an option. Then it makes sense that you're gonna go off the deep end and eat as much as you possibly can because suddenly it's gonna be taken away from your diet again. You're doing the same exact thing Monday through Friday. I have to eat so good Monday through Friday, and then on the weekend, then I'm gonna, have my free for all. I'm gonna have a cheat meal. Eating clean is a form of restriction too. That sometimes that gets lost and missed because we think if we're eating healthy and we're eating clean, we're doing the right things. But what is the cost of you eating so clean? Because, and this is what I see a lot of times, if you're eating, let's say, 1,200, 1,500 calories Monday through Friday, but you're white knuckling your way through the week, come Saturday and Sunday, you're probably eating like 3,000 calories in one sitting, which is undoing. Oh, I shouldn't even use that word because I don't believe that, but is sabotaging all of the hard work. Let's say if you're in a calorie deficit and you're focusing on fat loss that you've tried to build up Monday through Friday. So what I would rather see is like, let's intentionally incorporate those foods that you love. I call them non-negotiables. What are those foods if you just had these foods in your diet like on a regular consistent basis, your diet would feel so indulgent and nourishing and it would just take that edge off. Maybe it's I had one client, it was chips and guac. I had one client, it was french fries. For one, it was like a bagel. allow yourself to intentionally incorporate that into your diet over the course of a week, maybe 2, 3 days, so that we can start to build some consistency looking at your diet Monday through Sunday versus Monday through Friday and then free for all, or really good and then really not good. That's that all or nothing way of thinking creeping back in.
But you still have to limit that, right? I mean, you can't just have French fries every day, right? So
Right.
you got to find that balance.
Right. And that's where it can be tricky. And there's this period of time. Now we're going to get into it. There's this very small period of time.
Now,
I'm
now
like, let's go.
you
Let's
done
go.
did it now.
Oh, now you went there. Healing your relationship with food is multifaceted. There's a lot of different layers to it. But a lot of it is coming out of this all or nothing way of thinking where certain things are good and certain things are bad, and allowing yourself to bring those off limit foods back into your diet so that they can get taken off the pedestal. If I say to you right now, cookies are bad, carbs are bad, what is the one thing that you're going to want more than anything? Carbs. Like if I say, don't think of a white elephant, everyone listening to this right now just had a white elephant pop into your head, right? And the issue is that, again, restriction will never be sustainable, whether it's keto cutting out carbs, paleo cutting out processed foods, intermittent fasting cutting out breakfast, eating too clean and never allowing yourself to have the things that you love. It will never be sustainable because you will toggle and ping pong between restriction and overindulgence. That rubber band, you can only live in that place of tension for so long until something happens. The cheese board is in front of you, the cookies are in front of you, and you're just like, I'm trying to be good, but I want to enjoy that. And your willpower will let go. And then you completely overindulge because all of that tension in the rubber band gets whiplashed together. And then you don't just eat it, you completely overeat. And then you go right back into the restriction because you've told yourself, that's the only way to make progress. And there's no way out of that cycle. So, what we have to do is build a diet that you love 365 days a year, that incorporates the stuff that you love on a regular, consistent basis. And so we have to take those off limit foods and bring them back into your diet. And there will be a period of time, it might terrify you, where you're going to allow yourself to just eat the French fries. And you might overeat them for a period of time. But eventually, they're going to lose their appeal. Eating ice cream 3 meals a day, 7 days a week sounds good until you're like, I don't want to see another bowl of ice cream for the rest of my life. Right? And I'm not saying you have to go to that extreme, but what happens is when we bring those foods that are off limits back into our diet, suddenly they become just like another food. I can sit here and look at cookies the same exact way that I look at an apple. Not because it's good or not because it's bad, but because both of them are an option on the table at all time. I have a mantra that I use with the women inside of Lean Body Blueprint. All food is available all the time. You can have the cookies at the holiday party. You can also have the cookies the following day, 2 weeks later. At no point is it off limits. Nothing is off limits in my world. And when you allow food to be an option on the table all the time, all food is available all the time. Now you get to go into the situation. Now you get to go into the holiday party and you say, okay, what do I want tonight? How do I want to feel afterwards? Because if I don't have the cookies now, I can just go pick some up at the store tomorrow. And when you allow it to be an option, when you allow yourself to go and eat the food and overindulge, maybe if it happens because you're still finding your footing and what it looks like to eat that food for the first time again without guilt, just have compassion and trust that over time, if nothing else, just trust me when I say this, over time, it will start to become just like another food. And then we get to build consistency. And then the relationship with food improves. And now it starts to become a lifestyle. Tangent number 2.
I know why you do what you do. I feel like this is just an episode that people are gonna have to listen to like once a month just to kind of like remind themselves it's okay.
Yeah, we're kind of diving into a lot tonight. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's really good because this is the hardest time of year when it comes to diet and nutrition. That's for sure. And as we talked right in the beginning, there's many reasons why. One question I want to ask you about,
Yeah,
is portion control, which is probably my biggest issue. And
yeah.
let me talk about this for just a minute before you dive into it. Is
I'm like always chomping at the bit.
no, I don't want to cut you off. I want to go over some of my issues. Portion
Yeah.
control has always been, I guess, one of my biggest issues, and I think there's a few reasons for that. I grew up with, on my mom's side, I don't know if Italian has anything to do with it, but an Italian grandmother who made a ton of food every party, every Sunday, every holiday. It's delicious.
Yeah.
And I would just load my plate up and it was so, so good. And I would eat till I'm full.
Yeah.
And I think that habit is also kind of just stuck with me through the years where I see good food and I want a lot of it because
Yeah.
it's so good.
Mhm.
And not only that, is how many of us growing up as kids were taught clear your plate before you get up.
They're
I
starving
was
kids in Africa.
never I was never taught sorry because yeah. I was I was never taught if you're full, leave the food, you can get up and walk away.
Yep.
Am I just making an excuse of like that probably effed me up quite a bit? And before you answer that too, another issue that I believe I have that also leans into portion control is that I eat fast.
Mm.
I eat quick. And so I am done eating my entire plate while Kristen is still nibbling at her first. And I was like, well, she's still eating. I'm going to get some more. And it was the food so good that she makes. It's like, sometimes that's my biggest problem is like, this is delicious. I want more of it. I don't necessarily need it. I just keep telling myself, this is so good. I want to keep
Yeah.
eating it.
Yeah.
So that's a lot to intake, but
Yeah.
I really want your opinion on that.
Yeah. And I think I shouldn't say I think I know that no, maybe no one has ever told, I don't mean you personally, but maybe you too, the individuals listening to this, that overeating is okay from time to time. Like overeating is normal and healthy.
Hmm.
There's going to be times where I definitely go over my calories, quote unquote, go over my calories because I'm choosing to, because what I'm eating is so delicious that I genuinely want more.
Mhm.
That's okay. That is normal. If it's happening 7 days a week, probably not conducive to where we're trying to go. But for instance, on Thanksgiving, you had a couple extra slices of pie. Okay. That's okay. You didn't fail. It's okay.
Hmm.
Sometimes you just genuinely want more in the moment. Totally cool. And there's absolutely something to be said about dynamics growing up that directly contribute to our relationship with food. Yeah. Clean plate club, right? Whose parents have said that? Gotta, you can't leave the table until you're part of the clean plate club. Or there's starving kids in Africa, right? Like we don't waste food in this house. This was very expensive. This was such a great meal. You need to finish everything on your plate before you get up and play. Absolutely. And it contributes to us disconnecting from our hunger and fullness cues, right? And so I think this goes back to I'm very much a sometimes we can get so isolated on like the thing that we feel like is wrong that we're stepping back, that we fail to step back and see the bigger picture. Eating fast and quick, it's not necessarily good or bad or right or wrong. Is it great for digestion? No, probably not. Is it something you want to continue? There's no right or wrong. Overeating on occasions, I would go back and say, if it's happening consistently, can we build our meals in a way that prioritizes protein and veggies or builds a balanced meals of protein, veggie, carbs, and fat so you get to feel full so that when you are in that situation, one, you can make the choice that I genuinely want to have more, but you're not having so much because you're so starving because your appetite is so dysregulated that you feel like you can't help yourself around food. And it can be really hard navigating relationship dynamics when two different people have two different approaches with food and they eat at different paces. I had um, a partner who ate really fast, so I found myself eating really quickly because it's just like oh, we're done. Okay, so I just over time I started to eat more quickly, but as I've started to lean into more mindful eating, I tried to intentionally slow down because that's the only way my body knows how to break down the food and digest and absorb the nutrients. Um, so I don't know if I'm directly answering your question because there was a lot, but I think If you want to be conscious and naturally slow down your eating pattern, you might have picked up eating quickly because you had to eat it quickly because maybe dynamics where everyone ate quickly in your family. But that whether that's a habit that you want to continue or not is at least you have the awareness of it. And now you can make that choice that feels best for you.
Yeah, I guess for someone that has a portion control issue like myself, like what's just spit it. Like what's the word of advice you'd give me?
It has less to do with you specifically having the portions as much as one, are we eating enough calories overall? Because if you're not eating enough calories, you're going to be hungry. You're going to overeat because you're hungry. Two, are we balancing our meals with a protein, veggie, carb, and fat so that we get to feel full? Three, are we eating at regular, consistent intervals so that our blood sugar is staying stable? If you are someone who wakes up and doesn't have breakfast and just drinks coffee, you will be more hungry at lunch because you're going to get, well, this is so multi-layered. People wake up in the morning, they're like, I'm not a breakfast person, I'm not hungry. But then they go and have coffee, and coffee suppresses your appetite. And then you get to lunch and you're like, but I'm starving. Your body needs the same amount of calories over the course of the day, whether you have it in 3 meals or 2 meals. But the issue is we run into that rubber band scenario when you tailor it down into 2 meals and you end up overeating. So, are we eating enough calories? Are we focusing on balancing our meals, protein, veggie, carb, and fat? Are we eating at frequent, consistent intervals, not fasting, not skipping meals, not going too long between meals? And four, can we focus on food quality? And if you have those four things in place, you're going to start to feel full and satisfied naturally. And then as a byproduct, it's easier to eat your appropriate portion size because you finally feel full. But sometimes when we're following diets and we're following meal plans and we're eating too clean and we're not restricting, we're not understanding how all of those other different factors are at play here. And then we're like, well, I just have a portion control problem. It's like, well, maybe you're not eating enough food. So it makes sense that you're hungry.
Mm.
Yeah.
I have some things to work on, but I will admit this is awesome. This is really good. And
I'm like, let's do some dialogue. Let's see if we're eating enough food. Let's dig in.
you want to?
We can if you want. Yeah.
I mean, if you have a question for me, I'll answer anything you got. One question I have for you though
Yeah.
is I wrote down, this might sound really stupid or really basic, but
No.
what does feeling full, what should that feel like?
Yeah. It's, oh my gosh, isn't it wild that we don't even know? That's how disconnected
Yeah.
we are.
Yeah.
And one of the reasons why I focus so heavily on food quality is because our body understands how to break down foods that are in their natural state. When you go to the grocery store, I'm talking like lean proteins, complex carbs, com- words are getting jumbled. Lean proteins, complex carbs, right? Fruits, veggies, healthy fats. When you walk through the grocery store, if you see an avocado, you know that it's an avocado, right? It's a whole food. Our body understands how to process that. It has both the micronutrients, the protein, the protein, the carbs, and the fats that make up the calories of our food, and the micronutrients, the vitamins, the minerals, the antioxidants that help regulate our appetite, that our body understands how to process and turn over and create energy and utilize, right? But these whole unprocessed foods in general, like chips and crackers, yes, they're tasty, but they don't have the macro and the micronutrients to fill us up. It's why you can finish a whole bag of chips and be like, I'm still hungry
Mm.
because it doesn't have that dense nutrition. So it's why it's so important to focus on eating the majority of your diet whole unprocessed so you can regulate your appetite. When we talk about what it feels like to feel full, it means that you're satisfied. It's like, oh, I feel good. I feel like I ate enough. I feel satisfied in my body. It's almost just like this yeah, it's like I'm good feeling. I'm good. Your stomach isn't overly distended. You don't feel lethargic and run down. And if you are someone who tends to overeat, well, then maybe you want to practice eating till 80% fullness just to practice toggling eating enough without tipping over into overeating for a period of time. But if you are focusing on those four things that I talked about, over time, your body will tell you what it means to eat when you're hungry and stop when you're full. Now, when I wake up, my body is like starving first thing in the morning. And then I can eat a meal and I will go 3 to 4 hours. And then I'll start to feel that rumbling in my stomach. I'm like, oh, cool, it's time to eat again. My body is so in tune now because I've spent time regulating my appetite that I can eat when I'm hungry, stop when I'm full, and intuitively eat. But if you're coming from the diet industry and you fail to make that step, it is not as easy to do.
And I would say another question that I have is, especially focused on the holidays, but
Yeah.
any time of
Did
year,
that answer
just
your question, by the way?
you did. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, no, 100%. Definitely holiday based, but any time of the year is eating late.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of us are at parties. We're
Hmm.
snacking on foods at 10, 11 o'clock at night. We're having drinks,
Yeah.
cocktails, all that stuff at midnight, 1 o'clock. Do
Yeah.
you do you care what time of day people eat? Is that a terrible thing, or does it matter, or what?
If you're doing it a lot, it's going to disrupt your sleep. And I'm more concerned with it disrupting your sleep than the time of day that you're eating, because sleep is really this foundational habit. If we're thinking of like your lifestyle as a whole, as a pyramid, sleep is everything. If you're not getting enough sleep, your hunger will be increased the following day.
Hmm.
And specifically, your cravings will be increased the following day because sleep is energy. It's how we restore our body. And if you're not getting enough sleep, your body needs more energy the following day. And so your hunger is going to be through the roof because it's starving for that energy, and your willpower is going to be depleted, and you're going to specifically want more carbs. You want me to go off another tangent? I'm not going to do it. But like people wonder so often why they don't have self-control around food, but you're sleeping 4 hours a night. And you're like, well, you don't have self-control because you're not sleeping enough, but you think it's a food problem when it's really a sleep problem.
Hmm.
It's why weight loss and weight maintenance has to be holistic because all of these factors are in play. And now I just lost track of what your question was.
Eating late.
Eating late. Okay, thank
Yeah.
you. So I'm not as much concerned about you eating late a time here or there as much as if it's happening consistently, it's affecting your sleep. I was coaching at the gym the other night and I got back and I had dinner at like 10 o'clock because it was a pretty late night for me. So I ate dinner because if I didn't eat, I would be starving the following day because I didn't eat enough food.
Mhm.
Do we want to be doing that regularly? No, because it will impact your sleep. Ideal scenario, can we eat 2 hours before bed so your body has time to get into rest and digest? So you're not digesting while you're sleeping. If you're going out late to a party or out late to dinner, do you want to eat before you go so that you're not eating late? Maybe. But if it's like a time here or there and you're eating late, I'm really not that stressed about it.
Mm. Okay.
1 o'clock in the morning, maybe not. Maybe not.
Yeah, I mean, you do hear things, like eating late before bed, and it's just gonna sit in you, and it's gonna turn into fat and stuff.
Yep.
And yeah, I don't know.
If you eat after 9, it's just gonna stick to your thighs. Like, oh my God, this is why it's so confusing because there's these blanket statements that are just thrown around in the industry. I'm like, it makes sense that you're confused.
Hmm.
It makes sense because nobody has taught you how to eat. But once you learn, it's like, wow, this is so easy.
Hmm. Yeah, you're right. It is once you learn to just
Yeah.
apply it. It's like I said, I'm gonna go back to word navigate. This is why I'm naming this podcast navigating. It's
Yeah.
yes, we are focused on the holidays, but it's just every day. Every day can be
Yeah.
a grind to some people. And then before you know it, it's spring is coming and it's almost beach body time. You got to get
Yep.
in a swimsuit, and then people are going to be thinking the same thing over and over
Yeah.
again. So yes, this is holiday focused, but boy, this is it's good for every day of the year. And
And this is what, just to go off of that, this is
yeah.
the power of building a lifestyle
Mhm, mhm,
is that you get to live in a body that feels like you 365 days a year. Eat in a way that you love, that allows all the foods that you love 365 days a year versus there's an event on the calendar in 2 months. Time to get in shape. Time to get in shape. Got to do it. I'm going to buckle down for 2 months. And then what happens? You restrict all your foods, you exercise 6, 7 days a week, and then you completely burn out. The event comes, you binge, you regain the weight, and then the cycle continues. Get off the hamster wheel.
mhm,
Build a lifestyle.
mhm,
It's so much, there is so much more to life than cutting calories and doing cardio. That's it.
mhm.
I get so fired up.
No, I mean, I love that you're passionate about it.
Yeah,
I mean, if you weren't passionate about it, it's probably time
it'd
for
be
you to get
weird.
another career,
Yeah,
right?
it'd be weird.
But you know, 10 minutes ago, I said, feel free to ask me anything. I'm going to turn the mic over to you. You don't have to ask me anything, but if you do want, if there are questions you want to ask, you want to make an example, I'm turning the mic over to you. Go for it.
Ooh, okay. So, you mentioned in the beginning that you were decently restrictive, and
Yes.
no judgment. You said that like with pride. So I just want to know why that in your eyes feels great, or what do you see as the benefit of being decently restrictive?
Um, looking good, feeling
Okay.
good. Um, I'll be honest with you. A lot of my confidence and or pride comes in with feeling good in my clothes. Looking, you
Yeah,
know, you look in the mirror, you're like, all right, cool. I got some abs. I'm feeling good about that.
absolutely.
And sometimes it's hard to beat that feeling.
Yeah,
And, you know, like I know making terrible food choices is just, it's almost not worth it
yeah.
to me because it's like I work so hard
Hmm.
to maintain like a physical shape. And I know ultimately it's going to keep me healthy on the inside as well. Um, it's just I'm probably, as I know I said before in one of our episodes, like I'm probably a little too restrictive. I probably am. But I guess at the same time, I'd rather be too restrictive
Yeah,
than not and be the opposite way.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, I mean, I have overall decent willpower for the most part. But you can probably look at me and say your willpower is a little crazy because you're a little too restrictive. But
I'm not judging, I promise.
yeah, I mean, I had a couple years ago, which was super eye opening to me. I worked with before I knew who you were. I worked with a nutritionist, and we were using the MyFitnessPal app at the time, and we were
Cool.
looking at macros and stuff, and it blew my mind
Yeah.
how I thought I was actually eating healthy, and I wasn't, and my macros
Mm,
were just completely out of whack. And I think for the most part, I have that under control. For the last couple years, have been much easier, I guess, if you will,
yeah,
because my mind was opened up to what actually is going in my body and how that affects
yeah,
me. Before I did that, wow, it was I thought I was on top of it. I was like, I know my nutrition and I'm going to eat all of this and none of that, and I was completely out of whack. So
yeah.
having my mind open was huge.
Mm,
But yeah, no, I mean, I think I actually really do. Like you said the word pride. Like I do take a lot of pride in eating well, and I think there's a few reasons for that, and I it's hard for me to pinpoint, I guess. Um, it's one of those things like looking good. When you look good, you feel good. When you feel good, you play good.
yeah,
Type of thing.
yeah,
And
100%.
yeah, and you know, I'm 40. I don't feel 40. I don't think I look 40.
No.
But I think it's leading me overall to a really good lifestyle. But
Yeah.
you made some pretty clear points on this podcast that probably can could
Have I
probably
beaten the restriction horse enough? Yeah.
can probably loosen up just a little bit too. So
Well, hearing you talk about it, it doesn't come across as restriction. Hearing you talk about it, it's just you eating healthy. And there's a difference in restriction between I can't have that and I choose not to.
yeah,
And for you, it's a I choose not to.
for the most part, as I choose not to, for sure. But the
Yeah.
thing is, too, is Kristen's gonna kill me for this. Is we have a little tisk sometimes where I'm choosing not to eat stuff,
Yeah.
but she's also like, "Why are you restricting yourself?"
Mm,
And from other people's perspectives, this is kind of what we talked about a while ago, is like the peer pressure and stuff, like you're
yeah.
restricting yourself, what's going on,
Yeah.
why are you doing that, blah blah blah. I'm actually legit choosing not to sometimes.
Yeah.
Sometimes just like I don't want to, or you know, this chicken is delicious and it's also good for
Yeah.
me or something. You know what I mean? So it's I struggle sometimes, one, not just with myself, but when other people
Hmm.
think I'm restricting, and I'm like legit, I'm not. Sometimes I really
Yeah.
love my salmon on a salad. I
Yep.
really love it. So
Yeah. Yeah. Like I'm that healthy friend when we go out to eat. I'm gonna order something healthy. Not
yeah,
because I don't want the greasy fast food, but if I eat that, I'm not gonna feel good. And I would just rather feel good. I love eating healthy. I love how I feel. I love having the energy to wake up and go to the gym the following morning than being hungover. Like it's just my personal preference. And so whether it's you and Kristen or, listening, the person listening to this, just having that open dialogue of like, this actually isn't restrictive for me.
Mm.
I truly enjoy it. And I think just having that conversation can help take the edge off because it could come across as restrictive to another person, but take pride in eating healthy. It's something to be proud of that you care about what goes into your body and you have the discipline to go to the gym and you take care of yourself and your health and you're 40 years old or
Mm.
however old, the person listening to this. And that's something to be proud of. I'm really proud that I'm strong, that
Mm.
I'm fit, that I'm healthy, that I can run, that I can jump, that I can swim, that I play sports. Like, that's awesome.
Mm.
And if your lifestyle means that you want to choose to have the fries and not, like, that's okay, but that's not me. And I'm going
Mm.
to own what I put into my body and it's not restrictive. I just really love eating healthy.
Yeah, I mean, for the most part, I do agree with you, but I would be remiss if I didn't say there are definitely times where I feel like I tell myself I can't have that.
Mm,
It's not all the time. Like you said,
yeah.
a lot of times it is a choice, but there are definitely times where we go out and it's like she loves her ice cream, and it's like,
Mhm.
I don't know if I want the ice cream. I don't
Yeah. And then
know.
it might take away from the experience together in that way. I'm like, ooh,
Yeah, and because there are definitely times I struggle. Like I work so freaking hard to have the physique that I have and
yeah.
to try to look good and feel good and stuff, that there are definitely times I'll admit that I feel like I'm undoing
Mm,
everything I've put into it for something I don't necessarily need. I will say I never go to bed thinking, God damn, I wish I had that ice cream. I will never
yeah.
think that. It doesn't bother me. I could care less. But there are
Yeah.
times in the moment that I choose, I don't know if I really need this. I really kicked ass today or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't really think I need the ice creams and the
Yeah.
sugars and stuff like that. So there are definitely times where I probably do restrict myself.
Yeah. I think it's two separate lanes. Times where you go and you've worked really hard that day and you're like, I don't need it. It's just like not really worth it. I'd rather choose something healthy,
Mhm.
which is valid. One of the reasons why I want you to continue your fitness routine over the holiday season is because when we do move our body, you're more likely to make healthier choices because you get that endorphin and dopamine hit of what it feels like after you finish a workout. And then you're probably not going to be as inclined to make the unhealthy choice because you do feel good and you want to continue feeling good. The other side of it is going out for ice cream, let's say, and saying, I can't have that. That's where the red flag goes up in my ear of like, well, why do you believe if you do have that, you're undoing your progress? And what is the cost of restricting it?
Mm.
Because I see this a lot with partners. Like, I want you to be able to eat your wedding cake on your wedding day.
Which I did. Yeah, I'm not
Yeah,
that
yeah.
bad.
And
Yeah,
I'm
I'm
not
not
even
that
saying you, I'm just saying
bad.
in general, right? Like, I want you to be able to go out on date night and have ice cream if you want to and not feel guilty. If you don't want to, then don't have it. Like, by all
Mm.
means, like,
Mm.
I'm a vegetarian. Actually, I'm not going to have the ice cream, you know?
Mm.
But if you feel like you can't because you feel like you're undoing your progress, well, that's a little bit of a, okay, maybe we can work on a relationship with food there.
Yeah, and I will say, just kind of wrap that part up, is Kristen's been an awesome support system. And
She's
she
fantastic.
also she gets me to kind of step out sometimes, like,
Yeah.
yeah, I can't enjoy myself. I need to relax sometimes.
Yeah.
And now she's also equipped with even more knowledge after working with you. So that's very, very helpful. And I will say, you probably work with people like me on occasion too, is that there are definitely times where I'm like, I have an analytical part to me and a very logical part. And
Yeah.
it's like, I see sugar. Sugar is bad. Don't eat sugar. Like
Yeah.
you know what I mean? I see sweets. Sweets aren't
Yeah.
good for me. Pass it up. Like, I think overall that it's beneficial. But
Mm,
as we just mentioned, there's probably times where I can probably put the logical part down and just enjoy myself for a little bit.
yeah.
But I mean, it's hard because when you do research on sugars and all the stuff that it's just terrible for you, but that's all the stuff that everyone loves to binge on and have at night and have the desserts and
Yeah.
stuff like that. It's just like the logical part of me is like, well, why freaking eat it? Like, so I struggle. You can tell as I'm talking
Yeah.
to you, I struggle.
And I
So
want you to know you're not alone there.
yeah.
You're the person that I would refer to as like the one who knows too much. That it's almost analysis paralysis. You're like,
Yeah.
if I eat this, I know my blood sugar is going to go up. I know my glucose levels. If this is going to happen and this is going to happen, should I have it? Should I not? You know too much that sometimes we need to take that dial and pull it back and say like, it's ice cream. You're gonna be fine.
That's
Yeah, you're laughing
I'm
because
laughing because this is everything. This is not just food.
yeah,
This is me researching everything before I
yeah,
do it.
because you know too much. You know too much. I was that person too, wearing my heart rate monitor, tracking every single calorie I burned, every single macro that went into my body, every single calorie I went into my body, every single calorie I burned, and it was paralyzing.
Hmm.
But your body is not a calculator, and you're not going to undo your progress. And so sometimes we also need to say like, well, what is the restriction costing me?
Hmm.
What is not having the ice cream costing me? You know, like maybe you would have more freedom and see better results if you allowed yourself to eat the ice cream and then your stress levels dropped because everything revolves around stress in the body. The metabolism adapts and reacts to stress. And so the restriction also causes stress, which is directly contributing to results.
It's a full circle. It really is. This is
Yeah. It's why
honestly
it has to be holistic. It's why. It's why. Yeah.
this. I've said this to you before. I'm going to say it again.
Yeah.
This is once again is one of my favorite conversations. It
Oh,
was
I
from
love
the
being on your
from
podcast.
the
Yeah.
start.
Yeah.
This has been just 100% of this podcast has been packed with information. It's not just information like it's all the geeking out data science. It is like stuff that we all can apply to our lives every day, not just the holidays. Obviously, like I said, the holidays is
Yeah.
the hardest part of the year to actually maintain this. But I
Well,
loved how we from the moment we started, this has been just loaded with information. What were you going to say?
I was going to say, I want to hear if you're taking these tools and you're implementing this holiday season, how is it going for you?
Hmm.
And just, I would encourage you to use this holiday season as practice. You can't mess it up. You
Hmm.
can't fail this. You can't mess it up. There's no way that you should eat. But let's just go into this holiday season and practice some of the tools that maybe we've learned here, and let's see what happens.
Hmm.
I take it from a perspective of sports. I used to play soccer, right? You go into preseason to practice, to work out the kinks. So when you show up on game day, you can feel confident and you can implement what you practiced and put it into play. Take these tools, practice at the next holiday party. Doesn't work? Cool. What do you need to practice more? You can't fail at practice. You can't fail.
It's a great mindset. And so as we wrap this up, Shannon, I'm going to give you one more opportunity. Do you have any final words of advice for people who are just flat out looking to navigate December of 2022? How do I get through this, Shannon? Give me some final words of advice.
It's a holiday, not a holo week, not a holo month. So
it's not a hell of a month. It's a hell of a month.
it's a hell of a month, you know? Summer's great,
Mm-hmm.
No, but I would encourage you not to clock out. Don't believe that once the ball starts rolling down the hill that you cannot stop it. Wake up and stick to your fitness routine. Okay. What are 2 to 3 habits that you can anchor in as a foundation to give you some sense of consistency and help you feeling good so that you can have this anchor that's holding you down among all the chaos? Maybe it's getting 7 to 9 hours of sleep every single night and moving your body in some capacity. You want to make it better? Get a protein and veggie at every single meal. You nail those 3, you will be feeling good. Then I don't care if you don't go 7 days a week. I don't care if you hit your steps. I don't care if you drink all your water. Pick 2 or 3 habits and just lock them in. They are non-negotiables. Put them in your calendar. Do it when you're traveling. I don't care. This is not about you staying on track. This is about you putting the oxygen mask for your health over the busiest time of year. And then practice these tools. You can't fail it. I believe in you. Ryan believes in you. You're going to be great and you're going to let us know how you do. And it's going to come to the new year and I'm going to feel so good. We're going to hear all your success stories and it's going to be awesome.
And now you say, let us know how you feel and let you know. So how can people actually do that and get in touch with you?
Yes. So come message me on Instagram. Come say hi. I love, to meet you. I love hearing that you listen to this podcast. I love knowing what you got as a takeaway. And, if you are in need of support, I am so excited because I've been running Lean Body Blueprint for 4 years. And come January of 2023, I have a new program coming. And
Ooh.
it's called Built to Sustain. And it's basically Lean Body Blueprint 2.0. And one thing I hear all the time is women saying, I've tried everything and nothing I'm doing is working and I can't seem to lose the weight. And so if you're a busy woman who feels like you've tried everything, I can relate to that. I mean, you can hear me talk about this in this podcast, how frustrating and defeating it can feel to navigate the fitness industry. I was someone who was working 7 days a week. I was doing all the diets. I was tracking my food. I tried all the Beachbody programs. I could be so good Monday through Friday, and then I was falling off track on the weekends. I was struggling with emotional eating and stress eating. But it was like, no matter how hard I worked, my body never changed. I never looked like I worked out. And it's not so much caring about the weight. I just wanted to feel good. I wanted energy. I wanted to feel confident in my skin. I wanted to feel confident in my clothes. I didn't want to obsess over calories or stress over food. I just wanted balance. I wanted muscle definition. And so when I look back, I'm really grateful for the time that I struggled because I learned all the ways that it didn't work. And it's why I do what I do now, because what I've learned after helping hundreds of women lose weight, keep it off successfully, is that it does require a holistic approach.
Mhm.
Teaching you how to fuel your body, helping you improve your relationship with food, building the healthy habits like sleep and stress and water, and teaching you how to do this on your own so that you can be successful long term. And so this new program is going to be 90 days long. It's called Built to Sustain. It's a group coaching program where not only am I going to teach you how to fuel your body, what you should be doing in the gym, how to overcome that gym anxiety, how to overcome stress and emotional eating, but you're going to be surrounded by a group of like-minded women who are just like you, you can connect with for support, accountability, motivation, all of it. And I am so excited. So if you want to learn more about Built to Sustain, DM me on Instagram, the word sustain. I will help introduce you on how you can join the wait list, and it's going to be amazing. I cannot wait for women to join this program.
There's no one better. If you've listened to this podcast and you got to the end and you just heard that and you think there's someone better to do
If you
this,
are still here, yeah.
what, but it's like, what have you been listening to if they don't think you're the
Right.
best person for this? So, I
Oh,
mean,
thank you.
powerful stuff. And you legit, this hour plus conversation has helped me navigate December of 2022 and beyond,
Oh,
as
thank
well
you.
as so many more people listen to this. It's just really nice to talk to somebody that can give you the knowledge. You drop the knowledge, and we all can apply this stuff to our lives
I'm
and
so
our
happy.
daily mindset. So Shannon, you're a rock star. Thank you so
Thank
much
you.
for joining me once again. You're welcome back anytime. When you drop knowledge like this, come on, you can drop the mic and just, yeah, you're the best. So thank you so much.
Oh, thank you so much for having me.
All right, we'll talk soon.